Hello, everyone. Today is January 9th, and today is our meeting number 14, and we will start one of the most challenging habit, seek first to understand, then to be understood. It's habit number 5. But first, let me make a little review about win-win. We actually had a homework or application suggestions. And let me remind you, it was about a win-win situation. It's about if you have upcoming situation with someone where you need to reach an agreement, but you don't feel like really good about it. And we had 2 weeks, and I really hope that at least someone would try to do that. Hello, Richard. Hello, Christine. Christine didn't. Hello, Christine. Very nice to see you. Richard, very nice to see you. Thank you for joining, guys. Is anybody try? Did anybody try, actually? Sorry. I'm so sorry, guys, for my English. I am actually working on it. It's not easy. And if you didn't have that opportunity, it's completely understandable. But we need to think about it, because otherwise everything will stay as information in your head. Let me wait a couple of seconds and I will proceed. And we will ask Patrick. Patrick, join us today. Hello, Patrick. It's so nice to see you.
How y'all doing? Happy New Year.
Patrick is our veteran. He knows about the 7 habits much more than me. Much more than me. He's practicing 7 habits for 20 years. Lucky you are, Patrick. So my question was about, did anybody had a situation where they could use win-win? Win-win situation. So far, everybody keeps silence. Okay, guys, I won't torture you. I would just, Katie B, please.
I would say that I do try to do a win-win in my interactions with my fellow human beings, whether it's personal or work. I try to be, I know this isn't about zodiac, but I'm a Libra first house rising, so I always try to be collaborative and cooperative. So like we all win when we could all come together and not one person has the upper hand. So that's my sharing. I do try to be not selfish, but I probably could do better. But like I think it's an important tenement to have in mind whenever you have interactions with your family members, with your family, with your loving relationship, to try to come to an agreeable compromise. I feel like I'm talking to your question.
Absolutely beautiful answer. Thank you so much. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the group. Guys, anybody else? So you think I will share the screen? Well, guys, please, let's do this. If this is homework, not only for 1 or 2 weeks, this is for the rest of our lives. If you will have that situation, please share with us. Okay? And in order to give a general overview, I will just in a couple of minutes share my previous situation and update you with the results. And I actually had a couple situations in my life where I did a win-win situation. And I can tell you that it became already as a pattern for me to approach those situations. And this is why I want to share with you my previous situation from my last year. To me, it was a big deal, I can tell you. So this is briefly, I attended a group before 1 year ago, and it was a beautiful group. We were together for 1 year. However, I right now not in that group because I found they are too rigid about their beliefs, and I don't like when I'm confined with something. My mind is more open. And so I posted, she posted something, and I answered that I disagree. And I got very strong reaction. I got reaction till the degree that I don't understand what I'm talking and how can I argue with a teacher. So let blah, blah, blah. Let's make short my situation. So I read it and I was surprised because it's a nice girl. So then I got angry. Then I didn't understand where did it come from because she was a wonderful, wonderful girl. And then I started to, I decided to use exactly at the time we were studying win-win situation. And I decided to use the knowledge which I received. And this is my list which I created in order to access that situation. So first, I decided that I need to formulate my own problem for myself. So exactly, not just talk with her emotionally, how bad she is, how we usually start, right? Oh, why did you do that? No, I decided to exactly know what was offending me, what I was surprised with, what is my problem. And then after that, listen and actually formulate my problem for myself and keep it over here. So this would be number one. I need to listen to her completely. Listen her to understand her completely. So give her to talk. And then ask her what exactly she wanted to tell me, because she also can be emotional. And she can say something what is not exactly the problem. So I wanted to work exactly on the problem. Then after I understood her, after she told me what exactly, then I can let her know my concerns and point. So, and then after that we will interact, and then also I need to be ready. What if, for example, she will pretend that nothing happened? What if she will deny? And what if she will agree? Of course, if she will agree, establish win-win, and this would be our number 6 habit that creates synergy. So, and what I want to tell that before to write that, guys, I was preparing for 3 days. Really so emotional I was, and I wanted to cool down. So I was angry, then I decided, whatever, I don't need it. Then I was again started to think, and again, oh, she was bad. Then I again was thinking, then I think, do I need it? Why I need it? Forget about it, and that's it. And then, guys, I decided to do that. And I can tell you, when I did it, actually I figured out the source. I figured out that she was so in tune or so respect her teacher that she was offended that I just simply disagree with him. And all that reaction went. So it's not, of course, not about me personally, how I accepted. It was not about, oh, she's bad. It's just what she believes. It was such a relief because finally she sent me this. It was wonderful. So what is my updates about this situation? Anyway, I left the group. I left the group because, how I said, we had different points. But guys, I left the group as friends. I didn't leave the group when we were upset. So it's wonderful. And then right now I'm using that my, how to say, not knowledge. Yeah, actually knowledge. But it's become my pattern. Whatever I have a situation, when I'm upset, I'm frustrated about somebody said something, somebody did something, first I'm cooling down. And it depends from the situation. If the situation is strong, I will need a couple of days. If the situation is small, it can have me 1 hour. So, and then I'm planning in my head, what is my problem? Then I know that I need to ask the person and listen to understand. And then exactly ask what the person wanted to say, because the person can say one thing, I could understand the other thing. It's really can happen. So, and I can tell you, I used it just today. I had some frustration and I was waiting, I cooled down, and the person called me, doesn't matter. So, and I asked, I listened, and they actually, again, the same. We came to the understanding each other that it's actually fine. It's beautiful. It's such a relief. So please share if you will face the situation. And today we are starting habit number 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Boy, guys, I can tell you right away, I hate this chapter. It's the first chapter, which it's of course joke. I cannot say that I hate it, but it's one of the most difficult chapter. It seems to me that whole chapter is written for me. It's tough, but what can we do? It's difficult chapter for me. How I mentioned, we have weaknesses and strengths. It means I need to work on it. And let me share with you, Mr. Covey said in the interview that he is considering that habit number 5 is one of the most difficult. Welcome to the company. Hello, Svetlana. Welcome to
Lena. Hello, Lena.
Welcome to the group.
Thank you. I'm so glad I came back because I joined when there was an odd situation, I think. Did you see those boys trying to break in?
Yes, we removed them.
You removed them. Thank you. Because I'm like, something's wrong. And then I said, but maybe it's a good class. I jumped back in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, let's start with some story. Suppose you have been trouble with your eyes, having trouble with your eyes, and you decided to go to an optometrist. After briefly listening to your complaint, he takes off his glasses and hands them to you. Put them on, he says. I have worn them for many years and they really help me. I have an extra pair at home. You can have them. So you put them on and it's only make the problem worse. That is terrible, you exclaim. I cannot see a thing. What's wrong? The optometrist asks. They work for me. Try harder. I'm trying, you insist. Everything is a blur. Well, what's the matter with you? Think positively. Well, I positively cannot see a thing. Boy, you are ungrateful, he chides. And after all I done, to help you? The question, what's the chances you'd go back to that optometrist the next time you need help? I'm sure I don't need to ask all of us. Nobody would go right to that optometrist. And this is Mr. Covey saying you don't have much confidence in someone who doesn't diagnose before he or she prescribes. And the question, but how often do we diagnose before we prescribe in communication? Do I have two volunteers to read? This is a conversation with the mother and the son, and this is mother in black, and this is will be her son in blue. Yes, Svetlana?
I can do one if you want.
Yes, thank you. Who would like to be the other one? Come on, guys, go. Let's go. The chapter is so interesting. We will read a lot today.
I could do the sun.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Svetlana, start.
Yes. Come on, honey. Tell me how you feel. I know it's hard, but I'll try to understand.
Oh, I don't know, Mom. You think it was stupid.
Of course I wouldn't. You could tell me. Honey, no one cares for you as much as I do. I'm only interested in your welfare. What's making you so unhappy?
Oh, I don't know.
Come on, honey, what is it?
Well, to tell you the truth, I just don't like school anymore.
What? What do you mean you don't like school? And after all the sacrifices we've made for your education, education is the foundation of your future. If you'd apply yourself like your older sister does, you've got the ability, but you just don't apply yourself. Try harder. Get a positive attitude about it. Now go ahead. Tell me how you feel.
It was beautiful. Thank you, Svetlana. Thank
No,
you.
I've had a lot of what's the word? A long line of Russian Jewish mothers and grandmothers, so it wasn't hard to do.
Thank you. Beautiful. So you see, guys, we have such a tendency to rush in, to fix things up with good advice. But we often fail to take the time to diagnose, to really deeply understand the problem first. Mr. Covey said that the single most important principle he has learned in the field of interpersonal relations is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And he's saying that this is the principle and the key of effective interpersonal communication. What are 4 basic types of communication? Who knows? It's a question, guys.
Oh, I hate to keep answering, but can I try? Can I try?
Yes, it's a question. Go ahead.
Okay. So, let me tell my mom. I'll call her back. Sorry.
Mhm.
First,
Empathetic listening.
Empathetic
Listening, right.
You said empathetic listening. That was good. Body language.
Basic. So we are talking about basic.
Basic. Okay. Basic would be verbal.
Types of communication. So what is between us? And basic. For example, speaking is good, but empathetic listening, speaking or listening, it's already higher. It's already not basic, but still it's good because listening it's right.
So I mean, I'm
speaking.
Just
How's
speaking,
about
yeah.
speaking? Yes.
Yeah.
Then listening.
Listening.
What else?
Affirmation.
Let's say
No.
eye contact.
Reading, guys.
Reading.
The
Okay.
basic. And
Writing.
writing.
Oh. Okay.
I've seen Zora. Hello, Zora. Welcome to the meeting. We are happy to see you. So this is 4 basic types of communication. You were
Okay.
all right, but the question was basic. And probably you are agree, right? You agree that communication is the most important skill in life.
Emphasis on the listening from what you're saying.
What is, yes, we will go further about it. You're right, Svetlana. So what is about this? The real key of your influence is from who you really are, not what others say who you are, what you may want me to think you are. So what I would pull our attention that from who you really are. So as soon as we will start to pretend that we are somebody else, or if we will start to pretend what the other or that person with whom you communicate wants to see you, we will have not effective communication because the other person will sense our duality, our play, and never will open up. So this is the first most important rule: be who you are. Unless you are influenced by my uniqueness, I am not going to be influenced by your advice. What do you think about it?
Sort of like if you don't see me, then I don't hear you, I guess, in a sense.
Okay, okay. Good, Zora. Who else? It's actually, I remember a little while Richard posted on our message board, and he wrote, "We cannot be accepted until we are accepting." I actually see the similarity in what he posted. Richard, do you want to say a couple words about it? If you can, I know you're busy today. Yes, I guess he's busy and I don't see him. Guys, let's go ahead because everything what is here will be explained more in details later. Empathic listening. Yes, Richard.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I thought I was on mute. Maybe not. Yes, it was a thought I had in as far as acceptance goes. To me, it's probably the most important part, and it doesn't mean to agree. Just merely means to me to accept and say okay. And then proceed from there.
Yes, yes, and we will go more in details later. Thank you, Richard. So, empathic listening, what is that? Of course, it's seek first to understand, and it involves a very deep shift in paradigm. What we usually do? We typically seek first to be understood. Just thinking about yourself. Absolutely. And also, most people do not listen with the intent to understand. What we do? We listen with the intent to reply. Yes, sometimes I cannot wait to reply. And I think that I understood already what the other person said. And I cannot wait when the person will stop to talk and I will reply. or we are filtering their speech through our paradigm, then we are reading our autobiographies into people's lives, other people's lives. Oh, I know exactly how you feel, honey. I went through the very same thing. Let me tell about my experience. We hear it all the time, or we are using it all the time by ourselves. So we are constantly projecting our own home movies onto other people's life and behavior. And what those people think usually about that? That person doesn't really understand me.
I have a question.
Yes, Svetlana.
If you're, let's say you're a very empathetic person, very gracious hostess, and just generally a kind person, is it normal that you would attract men who are not, who are the opposite, rather narcissistic and not empathetic? Do they like to flock to empathy because they feel they can conquer it?
I actually think everyone, there is no the rule. And I can answer only by my opinion. This
yes,
is
please.
Not. I don't think that there is a rule by that. I think first everybody attracted by that person who is nice, kind, and has empathetic listening. This is more what that particular person have preference to choose. Preference, or actually it's unconscious of that person who is unconsciously choosing people who are not kind, people who are not empathetically listeners. So this needs to go into unconscious and think deeper on it. Yes, it's a little bit out of our topic, and I will allow, for example, someone to say a couple of words. Can we don't make this conversation too big? Please, a little bit, okay, guys? Katie B.
Yes, I was going to say that this was, I think what Svetlana, I think I have your name right. About the law of attraction and possibly about karmic relationships. And I would just say that you do have to do care because, you know, when you're an empathic person, sometimes you attract very strong personality to yourself. And you have to be able to hold your healthy boundaries, not taken advantage of, and, you know, you don't enable them. And so, obviously, I don't want to assume too much, but from that question that you posed, that this must be some sort of pattern you have in your life. And I don't want to assume too much.
No, thank you. Thank you. You can just go ahead and email me or leave me your information in the chat and I'll copy it. I appreciate that. I've been battling this my whole life. So thank you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Bye.
Can I add something? Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, one moment. Patrick is waiting. Please raise your hand and I will ask you. It's my absolute pleasure. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, it's really about habit 1 and habit 4, right? You know, a combination. It's basically understanding what you're about, right, in terms of your core influence, and then I think as basically once you're aware, it's about developing boundaries, right? As I think what Katie had mentioned, because the boundary part is the important part. You could be a person could be very, very empathetic, but right, if there are no protocols for you to basically self-care, then then it's like a rabbit intentionally walking into a lion's den. It doesn't make sense, right? So therefore, the boundary you need the boundaries, right? I mean, it goes back to habit 1 of being proactive, being understanding, having a strong circle of control,
Who?
self-control.
Yes.
Sanjay, please.
Sure. Well, I love this discussion. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I got you on hands-free, but I was going to say there are different types of narcissism, right? So narcissism is also a protective shell from early childhood trauma, early childhood abuse, right?
Yes.
And so what happens is a person might be emotionally unavailable, or what it is they might be hiding that emotional availability and needing to learn social skills behind the shield. What happens is if they feel, it depends on the type of narcissism, if they feel safe and they can actually retrain or relearn or get some insight into their past, what can happen is that person, I mean, they could work it out in therapy, right, or couples counseling. They could turn out to be wonderful, but they have to learn to work through the narcissism. Also, if the person is narcissistic, they're saying they're better than someone else. Generally, they're saying they don't have a problem. They're not working to change. But if they are doing those things, then there's a crack in the eggshell. There's a way they can change. I know even I even know from my case, not to make this about me, I had some coping mechanisms that I had to work through, but once I had a better understanding, right, it really helped to put me on a path. And a lot of people were patient with me, and maybe that person could be attracted to you because you have what they need to develop, and but they might need to do it in therapy.
Well, they're very attracted. They just can't seem to treat me good. That's the problem. But I believe you all nailed it. So thank you. Attraction's not the issue. The issue is just being respected the way I want to be respected. Thank you.
Zora, please.
Oh, so I'm listening to the last person, and it's not your responsibility, dear. I don't care what anybody says about narcissists or how they look at it. It's not your responsibility. It's not your responsibility to worry about how they are, what they're doing, what they're going to do. They don't treat you right. The question is, what's your worth? What do you think you're worth? What do you think you deserve? Just an example. I can't really speak for anybody, but I could tell you, like, for example, I just started dating, and it was interesting. A very interesting. Dating is very weird in our age, apparently. God help us, but okay. But just to make it easy, so I tested out because I've never actually dated. I've always met one person, stuck to that because that's what I figured was the right thing to do. And I could never understand the dating situation. So I started to say, okay, let me try this. And I was very honest with the people. You'd be very surprised when you tell people you're dating how upset it makes them because you're not sticking to one. But I will say this, that
scary.
So I will make it super easy. What I realized is that there was one person I clicked with, connected with. It was just seamless. Like, I've never seen anything like that before. It's seamless. It just happens. Yeah. And when I'm telling my friends, they're like, well, you need to be careful, and you need to be this, and you need to be that. And you know what I realized in the long run? We're so used to the narcissists, the guys that treat us like we're worth nothing or treat us a certain way, that's all we really know. So when a good thing comes along, we doubt it. We're not sure about it. We don't know what the heck it is to start with. And all we do is be like, we look for reasons. So I'm saying this to say I've had those in my life, and mind you, they have broken me down to nothing. Nothing is worth it. It is up to them to figure it out, to work it out, to get therapy, but it's not your job. So I'll say it again. If you know your worth, fall back, because what is meant for you definitely is going to come your way. So that was my little, okay. I'm good.
Thank you, everybody. And I'm really sorry, Lena. I didn't mean to take away your lesson here. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yes, it was, let's consider it a very nice little break. I can tell you right away, I'm not sure that I will allow it next time. It was very far away, but it was what I'm happy to hear you perspective is so strong and so intelligent, all of you guys who were saying. Yeah, it was a pleasure. If we want, let's set up some relationship meeting, and then we will shine. all of you will shine. Thank you. So do we remember what we were talking about?
Boundaries.
No, we didn't talk about boundaries. Boundaries was suggested to you. So
No, you mentioned boundaries before. That's
okay, sweetheart.
We
Okay,
were
so
talking about influence or
right.
something like that, the last
We
line.
were talking about empathic listening, and actually, Svetlana, you said that you are empathic listener, so it's wonderful. So this topic would be again close to you. So exactly, empathic listening, seek first to understand. And again, do I have 2 volunteers to read? Our father once told
Me,
Mr.
Maria.
Oh, Maria, yes, please welcome, Maria.
Hi. Should I?
Who else? Two volunteers. Svetlana, you were great. Would you like
okay. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, this is cheering me up.
to? So start. You will be the father.
I'm the father now?
Yes.
Oh boy, okay. I can't understand my kid. He just won't listen to me at all.
Maria?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you read it already?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
you will
I
be
can
the
do
son.
it again if you
You
want.
will be
Okay,
Mr.
go-
Kovin.
All right.
Let me read.
Let me restate what you just said. Mr. COVID replied. You don't understand your son because he won't listen to you?
That's right.
Let me try again. Mr. COVID said. You don't understand your son because he won't listen to you?
That's what I said.
I thought that to understand another person, you needed to listen to him. COVID suggested.
Oh,
He said,
Oh.
there was a long pause.
oh, I'm not reading that. That's the narration. It's really
okay,
supposed
it's
to
okay.
be. Okay, I'll read it if you want. Oh, he said, there was a long pause. Oh, he said again, as the light began to dawn. Oh, yeah, but I do understand him. I know what he's going through. I went through the same thing myself. I guess what I don't understand is why he won't listen to me.
Wow. So this man didn't have a vaguest idea of what was really going on inside his boy's head. He looked into his own thoughts, and he think that he saw the world, including his boy. And this is the case with so many of us. We are filled with our own righteousness, with our own autobiography. We want to be understood. Our conversation become monologue where we never really understand what's going on inside another human being. So this is an example of Mr. Covey is giving 4 levels of listening. Do I have a volunteer to read?
Me again?
Sure. Go.
Number 1, we may be ignoring another person, not really listening at all. 2, we may practice pretending, yeah, right. We may practice selective listening, hearing only certain parts of the conversation. We often do this when we are listening to the constant chatter of a preschool child. 4th, or we may even practice attentive listening, paying attention and focusing energy on the words that are being said. And 5, empathetic listening, the highest form of listening.
Is there anybody who recognizes yourself in some of them? Yeah, we do that. And if you go
empathetic
ahead.
listening is listening just to understand.
Can you say it again, please?
That's the empathetic listening is to listen to somebody just to understand like where they're coming from or something.
Kelly, something.
Yeah,
something
yeah,
with,
empathetic.
I'm not sure that I understood the question. I'm sorry. For me, it's breaking.
He's asking if empathetic listening is really the highest, the best listening, to listen to
Yes.
somebody the best.
Yes, absolutely. And we will
Right?
talk about it more. Yes, absolutely. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's exactly what we are doing, Ron, what we are doing in our regular life. And the number 5, empathetic listening is the highest form of listening, and we will define this term. What is that exactly? Patrick, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to answer Kelly's question in terms of the empathetic listening. It's more than just understanding the person's situation, but really in terms of their, emotional, basically emotional status, right? In it, as well as to see whether or not you're able to, whether or not you as the listener understand what they're going through. So it's more than just like, oh you hurt your knee, I see that, right? It's like, well, this person hurt their knee and they're in pain, right? And you could actually sense that pain, right? So they're nuanced. It's not just like, oh, okay, I see let me call a doctor because I see that you hurt your knee. It might not be the knee that's the problem, right? It could be something different. And so that's what empathetic listening gets into a little bit deeper from that perspective.
Thank you, Patrick. Richard?
Symbolically, to me, it feels like the old phrase that you put yourself in the other person's shoes. While it's easier for us to see that, it is basically trying to feel what the other person is feeling, thinking the same way as they do, to see how it fits with your own paradigm. And you might just go, okay, yeah.
Both of answers are great. Thank you so much, guys. And why I didn't go forward, because next slide will explain exactly what is there. So, and this is our listening maturity. And what's the difference? That this Mr. Covey in 4 steps described what we do in our regular life. And empathic listening, he spent the whole chapter for it. And our listening maturity, which we went through already, is step by step describing what to do. So first is just have a desire to listening. We don't have that, right? Try to hear. We can have just, I desire to listen and that's it, but we need to try to hear. And then not just hear and think about something else, try to understand something, and then remember something. And then continue what the person said. What doesn't mean that we can think that we understood, but it's not sometimes the case. We need just rephrase or ask, is it correct what I understood? And only number 6, we can say our opinion. And of course, 7, it's synergy. So this is, guys, empathy is not sympathy. What do you think about it? What's the difference between them?
May I?
Yes.
So empathy comes from the word empath, and as an empath, I can feel everybody's pain, which really stinks sometimes, but I do feel pain, and sometimes it's not always when I want to. Sympathy is just, oh, I'm sorry you had a bad day. What can I do? Or, I feel sorry for this person. So I think empathy is like a deeper level of sympathy.
You're
to
right. You're right, sweetheart. Anybody else?
I agree with her. Empathy is much more relatable, and it connects you to the person in an emotional level where you feel what they feel. And sympathy is being kind of a hypocrite. It's like
You're
it's
right.
true.
You're right. I like it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's like you just say it because you expected to say it, you know. But when you're empathetic and you feel, you know, you actually are there, like walking, you know, like Jesus, like holding your hand, like, you know.
Right, Maria. Thank you. Awesome. Sean?
Empathy is like trying to understand the person, putting yourself in their shoes, you know, understanding how they feel. You know, like if your mom's still alive and somebody tells you that their mom dies, you don't know what it's like to have your mom die, but like you kind of put yourself how they would feel if that were happening to them,
Awesome.
you know.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Zora?
I just had a question, I think, more or less. I hear the definition of empathetic, but I think my question would be, if we put ourselves in their shoes, and one of the things that we're learning from a lot of the slides is, don't put, I guess, don't bring your own stuff out. Wouldn't that cause that? Like, if you're relating to them, then you end up maybe telling them about your experience?
Awesome. Great question. Just wait for a little bit, and Mr. Covey personally will answer to you,
Cool.
okay? I'm sure he will answer it better than me. Kelly?
Oh, I have a question. Let's see.
Go ahead.
Is it working? Oh, sorry. What type of listening would you call this? Like for instance, like me and my wife, she would come to me like a complaint, and like when she finished her speech, it makes like no sense. And I found that looking at exactly the opposite of everything she say, and I would like restate it. I say the opposite of that would be, and I would restate everything she says, and it makes perfect sense to me, but she never respond. I don't know, would you call that, what type of listening would you call that?
So let our connoisseurs to answer. Guys, briefly, we need to handle our material today. Patrick, please.
Well, I mean, that's the first level of listening, right? You're basically repeating or parroting what she said, right? Or summarizing. But the thing is, I think the thing is when someone's, you know, and by the way, Kelly, I totally empathize with you, right? Because I run into a situation like that all the time, right? You know, happily married for a decade, and I'm still, you know, having the same similar issues. So with that being said, it's really not about the language, right? It is about it is about the connection. So a book that you might want to pick up, and I think Richard had mentioned this, is The 5 Languages of Love, right? So that one will kind of tell you, you know, basically in a situation like that, it is not about, you know, it is not about your response, it's how you respond. So I hope that helps. And again, that goes back to the whole the notion of seek to understand, right? To be understood, right? And also the idea of basically creating a win-win situation, because you can't create a win-win situation if you don't know the other person through and through, right? And that takes time.
Beautiful answer, Patrick. Kelly, let's do this. If at the end of the meeting you still didn't find the answer in the material which will be presented today, ask that question again, okay, at the end of the meeting, and we will return to it. So let's see what Covey suggested to us. Sympathy is a form of agreement, a feeling of pity for another. And empathy is the ability to fully, deeply understand that person, emotionally as well as intellectually. So in empathic listening, you listen with your ears, but also, and the most important, you listen with your eyes and with your heart. You listen for feeling, for meaning. You listen for behavior. You're using both of your brains, left and right. And Mr. Covey is saying that this is one of the greatest insights in the field of human communication. This is interesting. Communication expert estimated that only 10% of our communication is represented by the words we say. Another 30% is represented by our sounds, and 60% by our body language. Actually, Mr. Covey was pretty kind when he wrote 10%, maybe in his time it was 10%. On the internet, only 7% is given. But let's do not fight about that 3%. It actually doesn't matter. What do you think about it? And the question, how much, guys, do we know about body language? I can answer not much. And it's 60% of our communication, and we know about 10% about words. And okay, sounds, it's basically how a person sounds, angry or kind or nice, right? But we are not skillful in body language. Yes, Richard?
Well, if we take, for example, text communications, we notice that sometimes we misread what the person is typing to us because we don't have the sound and we don't have the body language involved.
Right.
And so the inventors of texting eventually came up with emojis, which are attempts to inflect some form of body language in what we're texting to give some clarity, like the LOL. We can communicate, and we understand more from the intonation of the voice and from the body language.
Yes, good adding, Richard. And this we need to study a little bit emoji in order to use them in the correct way, because all 100% is going on that emoji. I personally had a situation, and you probably remember in our message board, when a person wrote something and the other person wrote, "Oh, very smart, LOL." How would you react? Very smart and ha ha ha. To me, it was absolutely obvious that it was ha ha ha. It was a mockery, and of course, I jumped right away to protect that person. And in the end, we figure out that even that person is highly intelligent. He didn't know how to use LOL. So good idea. Yes, Svetlana.
I wanted to say that we actually can, by our human instinct, figure out what a person says through their body language. I guess I could recognize it because I'm a speech pathologist and I have to teach body language to people. So I have children and adults with some developmental differences who I help with body language. I love it. But the issue is put a text in front of me, take away the body, and I mess up like crazy, like what you just said. I mess up like crazy. I can't communicate over text with people successfully. I just, I don't like it.
More carefully. You are very intelligent and just study emoji. what's the real meaning of them. It's very easy, and be very, very careful. And Svetlana, you mentioned very good thing. You said that I studied body language. How's about people who didn't study?
Yeah, they
So
did.
I guess we just need to catch up. Right now, we are talking, actually, Mr. Covey is talking about conversation face-to-face. But yes, his time, it was only the conversation. Right now, Richard and Svetlana, you brought very good point that right now it's mostly digital, mostly online. So we need to address this. Thank you for raising. Katie B, please.
Thank you. I would just say that even as an empath and sensitive person, that sometimes you can intuitively feel things from texts, and not to discount. Like you can just sense the energy from the text. So I'm just here to say that to value that, if you value yourself as an intuitive being, that's my first thing, that you can feel things from a text. And then the second thing is the sound, because I'm very much into sound. And I say to myself, sometimes I can give readings just on a person's sound tone. So it's about the voice, the pitch, the tone, the firmness. So it might use certain words and certain phrases. It's the energy in which they deliver. And I always use that. And I value that above the words they say. Because they can say words, but if they're passive aggressive, it's going to come out in their sound tones. I feel like my voice here today is just to say, value your sentient, intuitive feeling about when someone says things, but their sound tones is saying a whole nother. And body language, I mean, just to say, I had a client, and her sibling would say something, but her sibling would say it and she would roll her eyes. So that's her sibling might say something, but when you see the rolling of the eyes, it's a whole nother level of body language. All your tools. Thank you.
Of course, you are correct, guys. Patrick.
Yeah, it's just the thing about the verbal communication, right, or communicate, or via text and things like that. A lot of time is also cultural, right? The different culture use different words in different ways. For example, when I do business with folks from India, even though we both speak English, right? But the way that they express things are very different than American, culture. So even though we're using the same words, but over text, over email, it's the words are clear, right? But it's not understood. So that's why that the cultural sensitivity is also important. So the person could say something because of their culture, right? They think like, oh yeah, everybody knows what I'm talking about. But the other person not from your culture, they're like, what? So that in my opinion is the biggest risk.
Very important point. Guys, it was so beautiful answers. All answers were so different. And today we are learning a lot from all of us. And while you said so many different points, there is something else. Just enrich. This is not no way contradict. I just enrich to all your different points. Just let's clarify body language. What is this? Eye contact, facial expressions, right? The position of your head, your arms, your legs, even the angle of your body, the distance what you keep, and so on, right? And of course, the eye contact is considered one of the most obvious and important. But what I figure out that Mr. Covey also was saying that we cannot judge the situation, what we had based on our experience, and put that experience on everyone. We need to judge every situation according to the situation. Look who is in front of you, try to quickly learn that person and behave. You remember how we need to behave. There is 2 rules. One is golden rule: treat the other people how you would like to be treated. But guys, I would like, sorry, Mr. Colin, but I would like to, and I mentioned already, offered a platinum rule: treat the other people how they want to be treated.
I like that.
I think this is a little bit higher. So I would like to offer you, this is 10 minutes movie, fantastic. And we are talking about interpersonal communication. So maybe you know all of it, but still it would be a good reminder for us to enrich our interpersonal communication.
Hi, I'm Lynn Franklin. I have one question for you. How would you like to be a mind reader? Because part of me is thinking, I bet your mind's thinking, that's not going to happen. Here's the truth. People's brains process information, they think in 3 different ways. And their body language will tell you all day long what their primary style is. You just need to know what to look for and what to do when you see it. And it's not one of those where she's leaning back, her arms are crossed, she's frowning, so she must be unhappy. It's actually understanding how their brains work and then presenting your information in a way that people can see it, hear it, and feel it, and increase the chances that they'll say yes to whatever you're proposing, and also decrease the chances that you'll do something stupid. Like this. Back in my 20s, before I knew any of this stuff, I had a client who was a corporate controller, and he would sit across from me in meetings, and he was always looking down with the occasional glance up. And I thought, okay, well, he's a numbers guy. He just feels comfortable looking at the numbers. And then as time went on, I thought, well, you know, he's just socially inept, and he doesn't know how to give me eye contact. And finally, because I was young and stupid, I thought, every time he's looking up, he's looking at my chest, and I'm offended. And there was one point I actually went in a meeting and went, excuse me, I'm up here. Ooh, yeah, talk about judgmental. Here's the scoop. This guy's brain worked in a way that he was never going to give me eye contact. And no matter how many times I modeled the behavior I wanted him to use, all that did was make both of us feel uncomfortable. So how can you tell? How can you read people's body language to read your minds? We're going to show you right now. And that means I'm going to bring out our first body language model, James. Thank you, James. James represents 75% of the world. You didn't know this about James, but James is a looker. What that means is that James's brain thinks in pictures and images. And here's how we can tell that James is a looker from his body language. First thing, he stands up tall, he has good posture. Second, he's dressed well because appearance is important to lookers. The next thing you'll notice about James is that he holds a little stress in his shoulders. Lift up your shoulders a little bit. Yeah, holds his stress there. Next thing, you'll notice he has wrinkles in his forehead because James looks up when he remembers something he has seen, and he looks up more often than most of us do. Next thing you notice about James is that he has thin lips, suck them in. And, you know, this is a chicken and egg thing. We're not quite sure why lookers have thin lips, but most of them do. And the other thing about lookers is they give you lots of eye contact. Look at them, look at them, look at them. All of them. Look at all of them. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Okay, now that you know that James is a looker, here are the 2 things you do to build rapport with him. The first is that you give him lots of eye contact because he literally believes if you do not look at him, you are not paying attention to him and you are ignoring him. The second thing you do with lookers is you give them words that have a visual component to it. I see what you mean, or look at this, or let's picture working together this way. So you use the type of language that is going on in James's brain. Those are lookers, 75% of people in the world. Our next body language model is Marge. And Marge represents 20% of the people in the world. Marge is a listener. What this means is that Marge's brain thinks in words and sounds, And this is the body language that you will see in a listener. First, Marge, not as well dressed as James because appearance is not as important to her. Sorry, Marge. Next, Marge has a tendency to look down and to the left because that's where you look when you are remembering something you have heard. Next thing you'll notice about Marge is that a lot of times she'll put her head in her hand. It's called telephone posture. Other things you'll notice about Marge is that she has a tendency to mumble to herself. Go ahead, mumble. And it's not that she's crazy. It's that she thinks in words and sounds. So she's really literally talking to herself. Another thing you notice about Marge, yep, she's the pen clicker and the banger on the pen on the table. These are listeners, 20% of the people in the world. Thanks, Marge. Thank you. You want to appeal to listeners. You do two things. First thing, you do not give them lots of eye contact. It freaks them out. That's exactly what was going on with that corporate controller. So what you do is with that, when they're speaking, you look at them and then you look away. And when you're speaking, you look at them and then look away. The second thing you do with listeners is that you use words that are auditory. That sounds good to me. Or let's talk this over. That's the type of language their brain uses. So you're using that to appeal with them. Listeners, 20% of the people in the world. And our final body language model is Marina. And Marina represents 5% of the people in the world. Give her a round of applause. Marina is a toucher, not what you think. What that means is that Marina's brain thinks in feelings and tactily, And here's the kind of body language you will see in a toucher. First thing, and the biggest tell on touchers is whether or not they've ever met you before in their lives. They are ready to hug you. Second thing you'll notice about touchers is that they are dressed for comfort rather than style. Next thing is that they have full lips. Give them big lips. Same thing. I know more touchers have full lips. Next thing you'll notice about touchers is that they have a tendency to lean in because they're trying to decrease the amount of physical space between you and them and build rapport that way. Touchers also have a tendency to reach out and touch your arm when they're in conversation with you. And touchers also have a tendency to look down because that's where you look when you're remembering something you have felt. Thanks, Marina. All right, you want to build rapport with touchers, 5% of the people in the world? Here are the two things you do. If you feel comfortable, let them touch you. Appropriately, please. But if you don't feel comfortable, because a lot of us, if you've never met somebody before and they're ready to give you a bear hug, the last thing you want to do is go, because we've all done that and it does not build rapport. So if a toucher is coming at you and you don't feel comfortable, stick your hand out. Give these people a point of contact with you. That's what they're looking for. The second thing you do with touchers is you use language that either has a feeling to it or is tactile. So I want to hear how you're feeling about this. Let's get in touch. Reach out and tell me what you think. That's the kind of language that appeals to touchers, people who process information in feelings and tactily. So I'm going to read your mind again, and you're probably thinking, so which one of these three am I? Let's figure that out right now. What I want you to do is close your eyes and remember an important memory. Now, this could be something from your childhood, maybe your 10th birthday party. It could be something that happened to you last week. So an important memory. Now I want you to pay attention to how you're remembering it. Are you remembering it like a movie or a series of pictures and images? Are you remembering it by hearing what people said or describing what happened? Or are you remembering it how you felt or how things felt to you? Okay, open up your eyes. How many of you remembered it like a movie? Right, most of you. How many of you were describing it to yourself, remembering what people said? Right, listeners. And finally, how many of you remember how you felt or how things felt to you? Right, now you know who you are. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. You're going to treat everybody else as though they think the same way. And you've already seen how awful that can be when you're working with a corporate controller who has a different way of thinking. Here's my invitation to you. I want you to start paying attention to other people's body language to figure out how they think. Because here's the magic part of it. Once you start presenting your ideas in a way that they get them, they will say yes to you more often. But here's the scoop too. I'm not asking you to become somebody else because you can't change how your brain works. It's true. You think in all three ways, but just the way you have a dominant hand, you have a dominant style. You can't change that. But what you can do is accommodate your language, both body and verbal, with the people you're with in order to build rapport, which allows you to reach the full spectrum of people that you're hanging out with. And here's the other magic thing. You don't even have to be in somebody's presence to figure out how their brains work. Interested? Right. All you need to do is listen to or look at the words they're using. So if you're in a phone conversation, listen for the words. If you're reading an email, look at the words. People who are lookers will use more visual language. People who are listeners will use more auditory words, and people who are touchers will use more feeling and kinesthetic words. You don't have to be in that same space to know who they are. So here's my challenge to you. Go back and read some of the emails that you have sent. And you will notice, now that you know who you are, the kind of language that you're using, and it'll back that up. It happens with everybody. So 10 minutes ago, you didn't think you could read people's body language to read their minds, and now you know what to do. So practice this stuff on the people at home and the people at work. And when you do this, and when you use these tools to build rapport with all kinds of different people, you'll become the most persuasive person in the room. Thank you.
What do you think about it? She touched everything what we were discussing, and the real communication and the texting, what we were discussing. So in order to master that, we actually need to be skillful and be above of not people, are above our emotions. And instead of go with our emotions, we need to have a clear mind, cold mind, and read the people body language. Yes, Maria.
The last body language, which is the touch one, is very, in my opinion, is very cultural. Coming from my culture does that every single time. It's part of who we are, to touch, to hug, to be present, to be close to you when you're talking. So for me, that comes natural, and it's not just a body language, but it's a culture.
Influenced by culture a lot. Yes, I agree. Not 100% in my opinion, but in 90% you are completely correct. Thank you, Maria. Katie B.
My first impression, I really appreciate this video. It was so fascinating, and I learned a lot from it. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like to me like it's a lot of work and effort. And I would say, first off, if you're in business and you're in sales and you're trying to land commissions and your salary is based on, I would see why you would want to implement these techniques. But I would say and just in general, if you're looking for girlfriends, just social arrangements, I would say that you don't want to work so hard and that you would just try to find people that are resonant to you. You're not trying to read them. Are they listeners? Are they feelers? Are they, you know? So, but I get that how this could be very helpful in business, especially if your salary is connected to, you know, commissions and sales. Thank you.
You got it, Katie B, because Mr. Covey concentrate a lot on corporate and on business atmosphere, and he was very popular in the corporate world when he was training the whole company. So I agree with you. One thing, and again, this is not a contradiction, just my personal opinion, to me it doesn't sound like hard work. To me, it sounds kind of, not even kind of a fun. So I don't, if I would, and of course you didn't mean to manipulate, no, but for some people can be it's that, okay, let me read his or her and use them, but I know you didn't mean that. For me, it's kind of to make a rapport, right? Rapport with the person, just to be
a rapport.
Rapport. Thank you, Sean. To be in the same boat, because when we are similar, it's according our physiology, psychology, we feel more comfortable. Just talk to a person who is like you feel comfortable right away. And when it's complete stranger from different country using complete different body language, we are confused. So this is psychologically more easy to set up a rapport. I again forgot. Sorry. So. Okay, but thank you, Katie B. I agree with you in that with friends, it should go with your soul. So yes, this is, I agree completely. Yes, Patrick.
I mean, to me, this is just another communication toolkit, right? That for an individual to basically be able to, like you say, build rapport or connect with either, you know, friends or strangers or even, you know, loved ones. So I don't think, you know, it's not a, you know, if a person does not have any toolkit, right, or not skillful at it, this might be a tool that they could be an expert at, right? Whereas, you know, other folks might be able to be more cognizant of their body language, the sound and things like that. You know, that's you know, there are toolkits for that, right? But this, to me, it's just it's good to know, because all of us inherently are social animals. So whatever tools that we can reach and use to connect with each other, I think that's a plus. So so thank you for sharing that video, and it's very close to the the book, The 5 Languages of Love, right? You could, you know, there is actually I think the author made one for the workplace, which it's the same principles.
Awesome, Patrick. Thank you. And you raise another point which I cannot miss. Do not tell. You mentioned about close people, and it's exactly what was happening in my personal life. So my beloved one in my close relationship with my relatives, so that person has a second body language, listener, and that person not never, but it's difficult to look into his eyes. And so, of course, everybody tried to change that person, and it's actually didn't happen. And actually, that person had an interaction with the other person, and the other person, because my close one didn't look in the eyes, the other person decided that he actually not only angry with him, even don't like him completely, and he had a very negative opinion. about person who is actually listener, who is the greatest listener who I met in my life. So see, if that person who got angry with the other person who is a listener and didn't look nice, if he would knew that, he wouldn't be angry and would understand that. So this is, yes, Patrick, thank you. It's educational as well. Well, it's 2 minutes before our meeting will be done, and I won't start any not new topic. I won't continue. I can tell you that we significantly didn't meet our plans for today, but it's okay. I hope you enjoyed the meeting. So we have a couple of minutes. Would you like to share your opinion? What will you take with you? What did you learn today, or what will you work on?
I would love to share. Oh, yes, somebody was going to say, go ahead.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Sanjay.
Well, I love what Patrick said, and I love what Richard and others were saying about the discussion. I'm somebody who's working on the toolkit myself, right? And I'm trying to be very careful. And there was one gal who mentioned not being able to discern what is said in text, right? And I tend to do better face to face or on the phone. But one thing I'm working on is excessive communication. So I might send like 7 emails back to back if I, like with a realtor down in Florida, that I'm planning on moving down there, and not understanding the impact. Oh, wait a minute. I should have thought about organizing the email and sending it. And I notice I do better on the phone, and I have to adapt my communication style. And I do use the platinum and golden rules, but sometimes I realize things, after I did it, or was I offensive maybe in what I said, or not understanding, you know what I mean? I have to work on that over the past, I didn't intend to offend someone or didn't intend to annoy them. And so that kind of stepping back and reframing, you know what I mean? So I found this very helpful. And I'm doing better each day.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're awesome. Yeah, thank you, Sanjay. Patrick, please.
One thing I realize more and more, and it's validated for me, is that win-win relationships, obviously, not only is it difficult, but also very few, right? So not everybody you could establish a win-win relationship with. I mean, and the sad part also is that win-win relationship you value will eventually deteriorate as well, right? Because reality is people die, right? So that's just, the way it is. So those are the things that help me reflect on, where you really spend your time and energy in terms of building win-win relationships. Like Svetlana, right? With, people who are, she claimed narcissistic. Do you really want to, establish a rapport with them and build win-win relationship and try to quote unquote change them or have them change themselves? Do you really want to spend that time and energy, right? So those are the decisions that you have to make, one has to make for oneself. But overall, win-win relationships are tough. That's just, bottom line. And so therefore, if it is tough and it's worth it, you really have to be careful where you invest your time and energy. So.
Absolutely. Very great. Yeah, thank you, Patrick. I'm learning from you when you're talking. Anybody else? Katie B, you didn't lower your hand, or you want to say something? Probably not. Okay, guys.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I think I like what Patrick said is like, I think it's important to understand that we can't be friends with everybody, and we cannot be, just to accept that fact that, you got to pick and choose, and, you can throw a wide net, but, certain people you're not going to be compatible with or harmonic with, and that's a-okay. But I know in business it might be different, but in your personal life, it's more voluntary. So it's okay. Not everyone, you don't need to be resonant and harmonic with everyone. You got to listen to intuitive feelings. Thank you.
Yes, and Mr. Covey mentioned that, but I'm happy that you probably know that from your own experience. Thank you, Kathy B. Wonderful. Liz, we want to hear you.
Hi, it's good to see you. Happy New Year to you. My take on it was since COVID-19, everybody has been kind of staying by themselves and people are not spending as much time, I think, in my opinion, as they used to spend with each person. So the TED Talk that you just showed, I would use it as a quick way of getting to know somebody, because I don't see people hanging around too long. So maybe you have 5 minutes to strike up a conversation. And if you have a tool where you can understand how to listen to them, I think that would get you some friends or broaden your social circle.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, guys, so let me close the meeting. I tremendously enjoyed our beautiful conversation. I enjoy your intelligence and always learn from you. See you next Monday at 7 p.m. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lena.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
Bye, Stefan.
Lena, before you go, I was trying to contribute to your